What's up, everybody? This is Jimmy with Trade and Decoded. It is October 30th, pre-Halloween day, 3:26 in the afternoon. Now, I know, the market's not closed yet, but the majority of the community, and a big majority of the community today, made their money pretty early in the day, which is awesome. Although we did have nice, clean moves many times throughout the day, many of which we found before they were moves, and we marked them down, and a lot of people took advantage of them. The reason the name of this video is titled A Blessed Day is because not only is it a blessed day just because you woke up, but we had one of our members get caught up in a hold and hope situation, and she goes by the name of Blessed. And as a community, we were helping her through that hold and hope, and ultimately she was able to get out profitable. And we don't condone holding and hoping, but you guys as traders, you know how it is. It happens sometimes, and when it gets far enough behind, you go into fuck it mode and you say, yeah, I'm just going to hold it. It's either going to go to zero or it's going to be less painful, hopefully. We've all been there. We'll all do that, and we will do it again in the future, unfortunately. That's just one of those things where emotions creeps in a little too much, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. It's going to happen. So we are a very supportive community. When our members have tough times, we like to be there for them. And fortunately, this time it worked out for her. However, this morning, we had a beautiful trade to the downside, followed by an amazing move back to the upside, both of which we talked about, both of which were played by several. I took the downside early in the morning. A bunch of people, I was one and done. My trade for the day was right around 70%, 70.4% win. It was a big win for me because I usually don't get much above 20 or 30% trades. And even then is good. But let's go ahead and take a look at what we found, what our targets were, and what was going to trigger the entry for the trade that we did take. Now, I got in a little bit late on this one. I hesitated a bit, and it almost cost me, along with several other people. But put line was 580.94. We were hoping to get through 580.94 and at least head down to 580.48. Okay, so about a 50-cent drop. And we also wanted to make sure that the Qs were not going to get hung up on support first. Okay, so we needed Qs to break through. Now, the opening move, we didn't take it because we didn't really clear that support level. Qs did, but they quickly bought back up. They were struggling to move higher here, which was good for anybody who was interested in puts still. The fact that the Qs couldn't move higher was a good thing. And the reason we were looking for puts, by the way, or prepared for puts, was because we were trending down into the open. You guys, I get asked all the time, where did the call put lines come from, and how do you know which way to go? Let me first clarify by saying I don't know which way we're going to go. Nobody does. However, I'm using the fact that we are actively putting in lower highs and lower lows, i.e. a downtrend, to assume that because we're putting more pressure on support, I believe if we can break that support, we'll head down to the next one. It's the same thing that I would tell you guys during the regular trading day. I'm using the same logic that we use to find every single one of these trades or to skip trades based off of that very same logic. That's what got me into the trade, just like it does everybody else. Now, our call line was a candle close above or a breach above 581.38. Problem is, and this is something we talk about all the time, and I'm sorry if you could hear the dog barking outside the background, we don't buy calls when Qs are up against or near a resistance. You have to wait for the Qs to clear the resistance before. That's why the white line is here on the Qs. As you could see, we never once crossed that line until after our V-shaped recovery. So there was no entry for calls, even though SPY crossed the line. Qs had not. We often have criteria that involves the Qs and SPYs, and you'll see a trade that ended up working out beautifully based on a two criteria entry much later in the day at a time that I don't normally trade. Okay. So where I got into late on this one was that Qs closed below the support that we had ultimately said, all right, well, if the Qs can get below 498.83, having rejected up here, we'd be interested in coming at least down to the next line here. I missed my entry at 934, which would have gotten me in here on SPY, and I entered here. It worked out. ADD today was on a rocket ship to the upside, by the way, which made it uncomfortable for a minute there to consider puts, but I followed the Qs over ADD any day of the week. If the Qs are trending down, I'm going to be looking for puts. If SPY is trending down, or if ADD is trending down but Qs are trending up, I'm not going to be buying puts. I'll be looking for calls. ADD becomes additional confluence and or a little bit more of a deciding factor if I want to hold on to my trades longer. Normally, that's how I use ADD. It's never going to take a trade based on ADD alone. All right. Now, if Qs are chopping sideways and not moving at all, up or down, and ADD is on a rocket ship to the upside, then I would be looking for calls on SPY, because if the Qs aren't moving up or down, it's not having any effect on SPY. But ADD will, because that means small caps are probably going up, which will pull SPY up. Okay. So entry here, immediately thought I made a mistake because we got a big green candle and we were nearing support on the Qs. We stuck in there for some reason, and I don't have an answer for this. We stayed doji on the entry line, even though the Qs picked up and ADD was already trending up. I have no explanation for why SPY did not pull back at this point. I can't answer it. I'm glad it didn't. But ultimately, when the Qs continued down, pushing lower highs, now we're expecting supports to fail. And as you could see, we have an alert all the way down here because this is where we were trying to go. Didn't quite make it there. But as we get lower through these lines, I put stops. We trail our stops. We try to hold on to the trade, squeeze a little bit more out of it. I ended up getting stopped out of this trade in this candle here at 944. And that ended up being a 70.4% win. It was a good day. Several people got out when we hit this first line here. Several people got out when we got near the bottom here because Qs were coming up on support, even though they didn't touch it. Several people didn't trade this at all, and they waited for an entry to the upside. Now, when we're talking about potential trades to go in the opposite direction, well, the very first thing that you got to be looking for is higher lows. If you're an aggressive trader, you say, ooh, there's a higher low there. I should expect this resistance to fail, when in fact, on the Qs, the first resistance you were going to run into from all the way down here is actually all the way up here. There's no attempt to move higher in this drop down. So theoretically, if this was going to hold, which wouldn't have been good enough for me to buy, I wouldn't have bought calls during a downtrend like this. But if you're waiting for the right time to take your calls, wait for a break of the trend line, happen to be off of a higher low as well, and expect it to run up to the next resistance, which is up here. So the reason you had a potential entry here at 950 was because Qs and SPY had both broken their downtrends and they had room to go before they were going to hit their next resistance. Higher lows. Higher lows are bad for puts. If you got in down here, you made it to your first line. Oops, Qs just hit the alert that we had set, and there should be another one to follow, assuming it makes it down to the one we were just talking about, this guy right here. So that alert right there is where we got blessed out of her trade today, this low. That's why that alert was there. Now ADD is dropping, I'm assuming. So you want ADD to keep printing red, and you want Qs to close below this support, which is this guy right here. Okay, 497.07. If you get a close below that, we should be heading down to 496.50. A little bit about a 50-cent move. It's on the final support of the day right here, which is the next one below the one we just talked about. we close below that, we should hit our last and final alert on the chart. And it'd be interesting to see if that happens during the filming of this particular video, but we'll see. With that said, many opportunities to take profits on the way up, putting in nice clean moves, up, 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 higher lows. Higher lows are bad for puts, so we're not looking for puts up here. We run it all the way up to the pink line. The pink line is the stink line. We struggle very much to get through that line. In fact, we had zero success in doing so. So what happens? We start putting in lower highs. Off those lower highs, tell everybody, guys, you're going to want to wait for support to break first before you get in, and we're going to head down. Now, we were basing this off the Qs as well, right? So we wanted the Qs to get below, I think it was this area right here, which happened. Let's see if it lines up accordingly. 1046, is that when this is? No, 1050. What happened on 10? Oh, it's right here. We were talking about this. We were saying how green it was staying and how hard it was to move down. I told everybody if we can get below this support level here, we should head down on the Qs to the next support, which is going to be, we were hoping right here, this area. Okay, it got real close to it. And then if we got through that one, we'd be looking for this line. If we got through that one, this line, and so on and so forth. You guys see these higher lows that we make on the way up? These are your targets on the way down, okay? What you don't know is which ones are going to hold and which ones are not going to hold. But anyway, your entry was here, your exit was here, because that's when Qs were coming down to this support level. And that was it. After that, if we did have some people hold through all of this, we got back down to that same support again. It's like, guys, you know, market's struggling to move lower. Get out of the trade if you're still in it. Then we didn't do anything here. We ended up chopping back up, getting through resistances, got finally through the pink line, made it right up to our high line of the day. This is our third target high. As you can see, we struggled to get through that. And once again, we got people itching. When would I buy puts? When would I buy calls? I said, well, I can't really get on board with calls because Qs and SPY are at a level that they've had 100% failure rate of getting through today. So I can't justify calls in that scenario, guys. So we ended up looking for a reason to take puts. And this was the two? No, this was not the two criteria trade. But we said, hey, if we can get through this support area on SPY, right? You see all these little candles where they stop. So if we can get through that, and Qs, let's see, this was right before I left for lunch. This was one of those two criteria things. 1209, right here. Said if Qs can get below this area here, actually no, I said 499.41. If we can get a close below 499.41 on the Qs and SPY is below the pink line, that was what it was. Then we'd be hoping for this thing to come down on the Qs to this line down here, okay, which was 499.01. And that's where I left it right before I went to lunch. So if we meet the criteria on both charts, where SPY's below the pink line and Qs are below this 499.41, we should head down to 499.01, and that would give us the move that ended up being this. Now, I was out for lunch after that, came back shortly after lunch, and again, I believe we had another two criteria trade where we were talking about, hey, we are still moving down. Now, at this time, what was it? Qs at 127. I think this is where Blessed got herself in trouble. SPY was putting in lower highs. And we said, yes, if SPY can get below 498.70, we'd be looking for a move down to 498.21, a 50-cent drop. If we got through that, we'd be looking for the move down to 497.78 on the Qs. These are all on the Qs, okay? So once we got below that level, which was right here at 127, I think that's, yes, this was your entry point, and the Qs made it to the support line shortly thereafter. We're talking minutes later. If you stayed in the trade, you got down to the next line. If you stayed into the trade, you got down to the next line where we had an alert set there as well. And that's pretty much it. Now, I don't trade this late in the day, so this type of setup is not for me. But I got people who are trading futures that don't worry about theta. I got people who are red on the day and want to be green, so they look to me to find out, hey, Jimmy, if this was an earlier part of the day, what would you want to see to play puts? That's when we have these conversations, okay? I do not trade this late in the day because theta, the market as a whole, changes completely. The volume is less usually, the volatility is dropped usually, and theta is increased exponentially from the morning. So the way I trade doesn't work as well later in the day as it does in the morning, and that's why I don't do it. It's not that the price action doesn't work the same. It's just that all the things that allow options to work better in the morning are not working better in the afternoon. All right? Same day expirations are no good, especially when you get pullbacks like this. Anyway, the story about Blessed is she was in this trade at some point in very green. She was driving, couldn't get out of her trade because she almost hit somebody. Naughty girl, you are. Ultimately holding through all of this. And what we found ourselves in, and if you look on the multi-chart here, was saying, Bless, it's not looking good. We're wedging up. This usually breaks high. I said, but I'm going to call Steve. For those of you who don't know who Steve is, that's a trade secret within our community. I said, Blessed, I'm going to have to pick up the phone and call Steve. We got an alert to get down to. Now that alert was set. You guys heard it go off while we were in this video at the bottom of this wick. We knew that if she was able to get down to this point on the cues, that SPY was going to get low enough, hopefully, to get her out. We were hoping for break even. She ended up making $242 on the day. So Steve pulled through. If you know, you know. If you don't, it's a long story. But at any rate, we got to that level. Ultimately, we closed below it. Still didn't take out 496.50, which is unfortunate, but that's because we haven't been able to close below this last support yet at 496.80. As you can see, those candles right there stopped on a dime, literally to the penny at 496.80. Bounced off of it just like it did earlier in the day. Now, if it comes back down, this is not a lower high, so it could very well hold that support again. But I'll bet you, if it closes below that support, we go down to 496.50. At least that's what statistics say. And with that, we're going to wrap it up. I hope you found some useful information in this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to join our Discord community, well, we'd love to have you. There's a link down below. And Blessed, congratulations today. Let's try to avoid that again in the future. That is a very uncomfortable thing to do, as you know, and so does every other trader. And when we have days like that where we go on tilt, guys, which I did on Friday, I ended up having a red day this past Friday, just for the record. It's embarrassing, it's painful, and it makes you feel like you're going backwards in progress. You have to use those losing days or those mistake-riddled days, we all have them, as learning tools, not to beat yourself up, okay? Understand what you feel like when you're in those situations, and especially if you lose because you made horrible decisions. Remember that feeling so that the next time you're presented with the opportunity to do that again, you remember the pain and not the luck. You remember the pain and not the luck. This way, it'll help motivate you to not put yourself in that situation again. And that's all I got for today, guys. So I appreciate you watching. I hope you all had a fantastic day. Today, I think we're 16 red and 112 green or something like that. Very good day as far as the community goes. Congratulations to everybody. And that's pretty much it. So I love you guys. Thanks for watching. Till tomorrow. See you.